What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? You know how we get down. This is the Birdcage LLC on the Perch special edition tonight. We're kind of veering away from Falcon football, but we're also going to bring a guy in that did play in the NFL, and he's going to give us a little bit more to talk about tonight about the experience. So sit back, relax. We got a great one for you, man. Hey, you either get right or you get left. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. Ghost.
Okay, y'all, this is it.
Welcome to On the Perch.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? As you can see, we got some new furniture in here tonight. We had to upgrade a little bit, make it a little bit nice. See, we got somebody from my side of the football in the building. We've had wide receivers, we've had running backs, linebackers, but we got another DB in the house tonight. But before we get to this gentleman, we got to bring in my guy. We got K-Dub in the building. What's going on, K-Dub? How you doing?
Good to be in the building tonight. Historian, good to be on the Perch with our special guest. Like I say, all our listeners and subscribers out there get a taste of some football knowledge and some football backdrop. Even if it's not Falcon related, I know y'all got still can understand us and feel where we're coming from today. So let's just sit back and enjoy.
Man, all I can say is this. When you talk about the defensive back position, you talk about hands, feet, speed, and high IQ. Know this because I played corner and I was also a safety, and you have to have it. But we always say the corners are the divas or whatnot. I moved from being a diva to one of the demons, but guess what? I love the divas because they made life easy for us. And most of them aren't divas. Most of them are just tough I'm not even going to say the word because we got kids watching, but they're tough son of a guns. And I respect them wholeheartedly because they got to run with these receivers. They got to come up and hit folks, and they still have to be able to process everything with moving at the speed of light. Not many people in the world can do it, but we got somebody who understands speed and is a Texas legend. When you talk about University of Houston, Austin area, we have Mr. Stanford Routt. Instead of us giving him just a regular hand clap, we just going to take it old school for y'all. For my hip hop lovers in here, let's go ahead and do it one time. Just
make them clap to this.
Hey, what's going on? Get you a little Rakim in here, make them clap to it. How you doing,
fellas? Pretty good, man. Happy to be on.
Man,
all right.
Welcome.
Good to have you.
So you're pretty much one of the forgotten corners that they don't talk about that was in that secondary. I focused on it because Nnamdi Asomugha, we all talk about how he was great out there in that system that you guys played in. He was perfect. We saw what happened when he went to Philadelphia. He just didn't fit the system. It wasn't he couldn't play because he damn sure could play. But when you look at what he had over there, he had you on the other side. And you made life so much easier for this man. But we're going to get to that. But I want to talk about life in general for you as relating to your high school days, Pop Warner, coming up through track and field, and just what got you to the point that you're here today. But we'll start off with this, man. You played during an era where the shutdown corner became a premier architect in the NFL. When you're on an island against Hall of Fame talent and you come up with a lot of great players that come through the state of Texas or whatnot. What motivated you to get into the game of football, to become a cornerback, and just to show that God-given speed that you've had coming up?
Oh man, I think I can sum that up with just one word, or should I say one name, and he wore a Falcons jersey for his first 4 years in the league, or 5, whichever one it was. I would probably say Deion Sanders. Probably growing up, I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but I'll just go ahead and just put it out there. Baseball was probably my best sport, or should I say the one that came the easiest. And probably around 4th grade, 5th grade, I started playing football a little bit. Kind of liked it, didn't necessarily love it. And then all of a sudden, I'm playing Pop Warner. Cool. I'm playing a little bit of running back, stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, I get to 6th grade, and I remember it like it was yesterday, 1994. And that was the same season that it was the NFL 75th in the 75th season of the NFL, 75th anniversary season of the NFL. And that's when a lot of the teams started wearing those throwback jerseys. And that's when Deion Sanders had just left the Falcons. He's now, he's still doing baseball, kind of almost marketing himself. He signs with the 49ers, doesn't play the first 2 games because, playing baseball and all that. And then he goes over there, which the 49ers were already my favorite team. And he goes over there, wins the Defensive Player of the Year award. And, I mean, we already know, like, it's all, history. But that season, the 49ers with their throwback jerseys, the red jersey with the white numbers, with the black shadow underneath, and seeing Prime out there in that jersey, my favorite team out there in the Bay Area. And I want to say, and I'm probably going to say something that's probably going, it's probably going to hurt y'all a little bit.
Go for it. We can't be hurt no more than we already are as Falcon fans.
I don't know. We've been hurt so much, man. It's like we used to. We can't be new to it. We got to be used to it.
It was when he came back to the Georgia Dome.
Oh, Lord.
And obviously, he gets into it with Bad Moon Rising, and the interception on the Falcons sideline. That's what did it for me. And from that point on, I was like, man, I don't know who this dude is, but like this motherfucker, this guy is fly as you know what. And I was like, man, I want to be just like him.
I got you on the cussing jar. You know what? I'm taking my dollar and putting it in the jar. I got you. You good. I got something for you because, see, we use this soundbite, but because you brought this up, I got you on this. Here you go.
I got one thing to say. This is my house.
Yep. I remember that.
And this is my house.
Yeah. So we use that sound. So I've been using that soundbite for a minute or whatnot. And they'll tell you because, see, when we get an unruly guest in here, I hit that soundbite and say, you really out your mind right now talking sideways. But, you brought back a painful memory.
I know that. I knew it would be. I knew it would be.
But you know what? But you got to think about it. It wasn't just Deion that we lost that year in 94. We lost Dominique Wilkins as well.
Yeah, man,
so
they
both got traded.
Yeah.
It was a situation around the city we're not gonna get into. I just leave it like that. That's why they got traded away.
Only thing good about 94 was Freaknik.
That was that's what did it for me, man. Deion Sanders, just watching the way he played, obviously playing baseball as well, but fleet of foot. Nobody ever caught him, could run with anybody. And that was just, man, that spoke to me. And then as the years went on, which I didn't even really start to pay attention to this till a good friend of mine actually really pointed out, is Deion Sanders, his birthday, I believe, is somewhere in early August. That makes him a Leo. My birthday's in late July. I'm a Leo. And it just always was kind of interesting to me that somebody that I'm literally just watching on a TV screen, I don't know them from Adam, that somebody that I share the same zodiac sign with is someone I'm actually drawn to, of actually the way they play, their personality, all of that. But that's what did it for me. So from that point on, you could not tell me that cornerback was not in my destiny, and Deion Sanders was definitely the architect of the position, and somebody that I don't know of any corner that does not assimilate or aspire to be like.
And I just find it funny because, see, you're praising Dion, but I find it hilarious because you played in one of the organizations that is a premier factory for corners.
Yeah.
And Deion Sanders is 2 corners in his lifetime that he spoke on that inspired him to play.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta mention, because I told you I rock with them Southern Jaguars, baby.
Absolutely.
The great Mel Blount of Southern University and the great Willie Brown. I got to bite my tongue a little bit because he's a Grambling alum, so it's a little, but I respect Mr. Brown because he's one of the greatest who started the bump and run, and Mel Blount perfected it. So Deion said his style came from both of those guys. He just didn't hit like those dudes. He didn't need to.
Absolutely.
But when you look at your career and you talk about speed, your game reminded me a lot of Darryl Green. You reminded me of him when I watched you play coming up
from Houston, Texas.
Yeah, a Texas boy. It's fast too. You came out of Conley High School out of Austin, Texas, Longhorn country, by the way, for those who don't know.
Okay.
You were, you ran, most people don't know this about your track career. You ran the 9th fastest time in the U.S. when you look at it, and you were a state qualifier, and you were all district in the 200 meters and the 4x400 meters.
Yeah.
And when you look at what track brought to your career, how do you feel that it impacted you all the way around when it came to your conditioning and just being able to run all day in the field with world-class athletes?
I get where you're going with it. And obviously, I can tell like you done your homework. I'll go ahead and give you a nugget that you probably would not ever get this from reading or doing any sort of background information on me. So obviously track helped me from a physical standpoint, but it also helped me, I guess you could say, on the football field from a notoriety standpoint. And I say that because I went to University of Houston, and it's not the University of Houston that you see right now. Power 4, Big 12, playing on Fox or ESPN or whatever it is going to be that Saturday. It wasn't that University of Houston. It's the University of Houston that was in Conference USA. It's the University of Houston that was playing on CBS Sports Network. And when I first went to U of H, I never planned on running track. I was just planning on playing football, and that was it. We went 0-11 my rookie year. Had no sense of winning whatsoever, and I had never been through anything that bad. Now, the high school I went to, we weren't exactly state champions, but we damn sure weren't going 0 and whatever. So me going 0-11 my rookie year in college was crazy. And so I needed some type of success. That's really the only reason why I started running track, just because, we're not doing good in football. I got to get some sense of success. And that's when everything kind of started, that's when I started becoming, dual athlete or whatever. But I only planned on really just playing football in college. Now, as far as track went, obviously it gave me better conditioning, got me faster, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, what running track did for me, it put me on the map, because here I am, my sophomore year, I made All-American in the 200. My junior year, obviously, made All-American as well in the 200, all of that. And so now it's like, hey, man, that guy that just got second in nationals in the 200, he also plays football. Oh, word? Okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and kind of, take a quick peek at him. And that's exactly what it really did. It started getting my name out there. It started getting me more notice, because I didn't go to Oklahoma. I didn't go to A&M, USC, Ohio State, Miami. I didn't go to any of those schools. So I was always going to be somebody that was kind of a bit overlooked or just under the radar. But me going out there on the track, getting those All-Americans and all of that, that's what started getting me noticed. And then I just went ahead and took them now noticing me and now brought it to their attention. And then the rest is history.
Well, before I let K-Dub get this out, let me put this out here for y'all, because a lot of you guys don't pay attention as students of the game when it comes to that. First off, y'all have had some great football players to come out of the University of Houston. Let's get that straight. One of them is a former Atlanta Falcon, Mr. Greg Brazina, who was an architect of the Grits Blitz defense, University of Houston alum, a great AFL running back by the name of Mr. Dickie Post. know about him for the San Diego Chargers from back in the day when he played for the late great Sid Gilliam. And you look at Tank Dell, who we actually talked about. You had Riley Odoms, who played for the Denver Broncos. Elmo Wright, who played for the Kansas City Chiefs when they actually were breaking down integration walls in the old AFL. You guys have had some great football players to come out of that school.
No doubt about it.
I'm not going to sit there and say that your school was like that. And plus, y'all had one of my rivals and good friend of mine that played there back in the day. Andre Kahn out of Jacksonville, Florida, Wolfson High School, wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
That's my man. Look, Andre, I know you watching, so just go ahead. Go. You got us a few times, but just make sure you let folks know that you ate out of a soup straw once or twice due to me. That's my boy. We got a little rivalry. That's my dog.
K-Dub, before you go, just to go ahead and piggyback on what you're saying, Ryan, and I know a great deal of the history of pretty much in all sports at University of Houston, and I'm a little fuzzy because obviously the Andre Ware days, Jason Phillips. I remember how Andre Ware came to talk to us one time. He's like, guys, we used to put 50 on Texas in a half, and so obviously U of H, they were moving. They were doing a lot of great things. And then I feel like there was some sort of like sanction. There was some sort of penalties or something like that where it's like U of H just went to like a valley. And I say that because when I got drafted back in 2005, I was second round pick, number 38 overall. I was the highest drafted Cougar in a decade. I think the previous one was Antoine Smith, first round pick in 1996. So for that decade long, from the time I was just getting into high school, or should I say, just entering high school into the time I left University of Houston, in that decade, it was almost kind of like a ghost town when it came to players winding up going to the league. Hell, even basketball players that at U of H not going to the league. So in that little era, it was pretty bleak times. But before then, the Andre Ware days, the Klingler days, oh yeah, like U of H had tons of talent running through those buildings.
Your mic's off, K-Dub. You gotta pop out and pop back in. Yeah. Just a little slight technical difficulty, but it's all good though. We're just waiting for him to pop back. But when you look at how you talked about the University of Houston, most people weren't alive enough to understand that Houston was a basketball school. Had football players, but it was a basketball school. People don't understand.
Oh, trust me, it still is thought of as a basketball school.
And people don't pay attention. There you go, K-Dub. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. But my question was, when you came and entered the league, when you had a little chip on your shoulder, not coming from one of the big Power 5 schools like Georgia, Michigan, Miami, things of that nature, USC, coming in and blowing that combine up, having that fastest man in the combine. How was that feeling coming out of that combine? Before Chris Johnson broke it, a few years later. How was that moment, and how was that feeling having that title for a second?
Great, obviously it was a great feeling, but the main thing, man, it was really just seizing the moment. I always kind of go back to that song by Eminem called "Lose Yourself," just because you sometimes opportunities may not knock twice in life. Sometimes they may only come along once in life, and I'm always going to be somebody who's a big advocate for the NFL Combine. Obviously, now it's become like a spectacle. It's become an event, which sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. But I think when it comes to the Combine, it's really great for the guys who aren't going top 10. Because the guys who are going to be the top 10, the Reuben Baines or the Mendozas or the Carnell Tates, those guys, it doesn't matter. Like I said, they've already proven what they got, what they can do. They already have the logo on the helmet. They've already played in enough TV games where just off of that alone, they're going to get drafted just off of GP because everything they've already put out there. But for the other guys, the ones who aren't supposed to go top 10, the ones who may go late first or could be possible second, and they could propel themselves into the late first and things like that. Those are the ones where the combine is such a tool for you, because what happens is it takes the entire playing field and it makes it level. It's no more slanted because you're out there with just shirts and a t-shirt on. All you have is DB number 37. That's it. It ain't no name on the back of the jersey. It ain't no team logo on the helmet where now your inherent bias can now play a part, because at the end of the day, we all have it. I don't care who you are. Everybody's got a bit of a bias. It levels that playing field where now they're gonna judge you and evaluate you simply off of what you're doing, what they see on the film, what they see in person. And that's why I think it's a great tool, because it finally gives you that opportunity. Because everybody always says, man, if I could just have an opportunity. Let's say there's a girl that you really like, but you can't get in front of her. You're never in the same place she is. Man, if I just get my shot, if I just get my shot at that job that I really know I'd be good for. And that's what the combine will do to you, because it takes everybody in the football world and puts them all in one city out there in Indianapolis, Indiana, and the owners, the head coaches, the coordinators, the scouts, everybody, and then your perceived competition, your contemporaries, they're right there with you. So you go over there, you run a good 40, or you run a good 5-10-5 or vertical. Well, I mean, that's just what he did at his pro day. So, I mean, I don't really know about the conditions, because this person over here did this, their pro day. Maybe it was hand time. Maybe it wasn't. No. It takes all of that out, because we're all at the same place. We're all competing under the same conditions. So you can no longer use that inherent bias. You can't try to go and pick apart somebody's performance because you may be predisposed to not liking them, or you may be predisposed to liking them. So that's why I think the combine, if you're not picked to go in the top 10, or you're not rated the top guy, it is a very, very powerful tool that you can use going forward, along with pro days, your private workouts, things like that. But the combine, late February, that's when you really can do a lot to propel yourself forward.
So I'll say this. You spoke on this, and we're gonna get back to you, because this is mainly about you. And I know we were talking about the process, and we're gonna get into that too. But my problem is this: there's not enough HBCU boys getting opportunities to go to the combine or even be invited. Because I can give you one of the best cornerbacks in the country is Jared Washington out of South Carolina State, who ran the fastest 40 at pretty much in the East-West Shrine Bowl game, and outplayed a lot of those guys. And then you got another guy who was a transfer as well, by the name of Jamal Sam out of Benedict College. He came out of UTSA and slid over to Benedict College and became one of the top corners in pretty much in the HBCU ranks. And you talk about guys that can flat out fly, because here's the thing: some of those schools don't have the facilities that the Texases or the Georgias and places like that have.
No argument there.
But you have to look at the fact that some of these guys come in here with a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to be hungrier than these guys coming from these schools that are pampering them because they don't get looked at. Why do you think that these guys don't get an opportunity? And if you ever had a chance to become a coach or a scout, would you give these guys an opportunity instead of just a damn pro day?
Okay, the first one, when you ask why do I think that they don't get the opportunity, I think that's multi-layered. I think that obviously you're going to have your inherent bias. I think that there's also going to be the aspect of, and I went through this at going to University of Houston, which at the time was considered a G5, obviously, because so much of can you play at the next level is how we're basing your opponent. Who are you going against, whether you are a left tackle going against an edge rusher, whether it is a running back that's going against a linebacker, whether it is a quarterback that's going against a defense, and if it's a corner going against a receiver, vice versa. Who have you gone against this past season that I can go ahead, put on the film, and I can use that to evaluate you, because the person you're going against will be playing on Sundays coming this fall. And that's where the struggle really comes down to. And I say this. So I remember coming out in the draft. I run fast. I test well, all of that. Yeah, but he went to University of Houston. They're G5. he's not really playing against any top talent. That was the narrative. Even though I played against like 5 first-round receivers in college. I played against Roy Williams. I played against Braylon Edwards. I played against Mark Clayton. I played against Roddy White, who was in my conference. I know y'all know the name Roddy White.
Yeah, we know who Roddy White is well.
Of all time.
So people thought, oh, well, he's not really playing against top talent. No, you just ain't really doing your homework to go and actually look at my schedule. You're looking at who we played.
Homework.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're looking at who we played in conference, not out of conference. You see what I'm trying to say? So now let's go ahead and now take that same type of ideology, move that to the SWAC or the HBCU or just what have you. We'll see. They're not playing against guys perceived as who's going to be playing on Sundays, at least not in an abundance. Now, I will say this. Me, if I was a coach or a scout, oh yeah, of course I'm going to go ahead and give a lot of those guys a look because some of those guys may have transferred from the PWIs. They may have transferred from the P4s or the G5s because now they're just trying to get a look. But guess what? To get a look, you got to get on the field. You got to get that opportunity. They're not going to be able to recruit you or evaluate you if you're just somebody that has a lot of talent, but you're over there on the sideline riding the pine. So guys will come from a lot of different areas. Now, I will say this. Back during my time, it was very difficult because everybody's closed-minded. They think that the only good guys are going to be coming from the P4s or maybe the G5s, but the guys who really, really test well. Now, I will say this, and this is something that was so pleasant to see. It was very, very pleasant to see several years after I got drafted when I feel like things started kind of opening up a little bit. When I see a DRC, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, getting drafted out of a Tennessee State. I see, and I'm talking about getting drafted high.
Shutdown corner.
When I see Leotis McKelvin getting drafted out of Troy, getting drafted high. When I see somebody in my draft class, DeMarcus Ware out of Troy, 11 overall.
Hall of Famer, by the way.
Exactly. So there definitely is a stigma. There's no doubt about that. I'm not even going to sugarcoat. There's a stigma. But the thing is, that stigma obviously is the worst for the HBCU, no doubt about it. But for some of the FCS schools, whether it is G5 schools, it is any school that is not in a P4/P5, there's always going to be a bit of that natural prejudice that you simply don't have what it takes because even if you're playing well in all the games you're playing, I want to see the games where you're going against somebody who is undoubtedly going to be playing on Sunday afternoons because that's the only way for me to evaluate you. And I'll even go take it this. And I played alongside guys that went to UT, played alongside guys that went to Ohio State, played alongside guys that went to those powerhouse schools. And even with this doesn't happen often, but this is something that may be kind of talked about amongst some scouting, coaching circles whenever they're evaluating players. Well, think about it like this. Let's say you go to Ohio State. You're playing with a Chase Young, a Nick Bosa, a Joey Bosa. How quick you think that ball coming out? So as a DB, I can squat on stuff. I don't got to cover no more than about 3 seconds. I got a All-American safety. I got a Dick Butkus Award finalist linebacker. I got an edge rusher who's going to be a top 5 pick. So I got all this talent around me. I may not even really be that good, but I'm going to look good.
And that's the thing I look at when you talk about those kids, because again, we're going to make this about you. But the reason I mentioned that was because you came out of University of Houston at that time where guys were overlooked. But before we go to commercial break, who was the toughest guy that you had to cover in college? And we got to take
college.
Yeah.
It could be because I was just young at the time. But my rookie year, played against Memphis. I think his name was Bunky Perkins, short receiver, number 1, may have been 5'9". Man, he gave me a lot of work. Another guy, it's also could be because I was young at the time. And a guy that I actually became pretty cool with because we played against each other several times in the league, Deion Branch. I remember going against him my rookie year. He was at Louisville. That was his last year. And then obviously we played against each other several times in the league. Deion Branch. Yeah. Very, very, very talented receiver. Not that big, but very, very talented. That's why he's Super Bowl MVP.
Hey, man, Georgia boy. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, we got to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Mr. Stanford Routt. We're going to get into his career. Stay tuned. Tap in every Thursday night at 8 p.m. for the Birdcage LLC with the magnificent Birdcage crew, getting it in and talking Falcon football every Thursday at 8. If you don't get that, we also got On the Perch for you. We have special guests that come through during the off season, and then we also have Bumper to Bumper in the morning where you get your morning fill of the historian's thoughts, man. You know how we get down, man. Tap into it.
You either get right or you get left. Goes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We have Mr. Stanford Routt in the building, former second-round pick of the Oakland Raiders. Now they're the Las Vegas Raiders, but they still Oakland to me. But again, we back to it. So let's get to it. We spoke about your time in college. You pretty much just told us who the toughest guy for you to cover. Now, once you get through your college career and you get ready to get to the professional side of things, what was the process like for you going through the combine and really getting a chance to showcase your talent, your physical talents in the t-shirt and shorts, as you just described, and then finding out that you got that phone call from the Raiders, as they would say?
Oh, man. Like I said, once that finished up, I felt like I was in a good spot. That's when I started basically finding out or hearing, through agents and all the aficionados that I could go as high as 20. I probably would maybe go about as low as 45. So I knew that was like my range, somewhere between 20 and 40. And obviously I wound up going 38. And, after then I had a couple private workouts. I wanted to make sure that I did well at those. Obviously the interviews, because, it's a comprehensive process. Like if a team's going to sink a certain amount of money into you, they want to know everything about you. And you want to make sure that you're on the up and up when it comes to whatever question they may have for you, whether it's on the field, off the field, what have you. And then I still remember to this day exactly how that played out back then. I hate to say it like that because it shows my age. But back then, the draft was on a Saturday, Sunday. It wasn't this Thursday, Friday, Saturday type of event that you see now. And I think it started around noon. I was in Houston at the time. I'm driving back to Austin pretty much probably around just at the start of the draft because I know I'm not going top 10 or anything like that. So I get to my parents' house, and by then I think it's maybe pick 15, somewhere in that area. So I'm sitting back, just kind of watching. My parents are there. And we start getting to like 23. That's when my boy Fave, that's when he gets drafted to the Raiders first round. Then you see Aaron Rodgers. He falls off the board. Then my boy Jason Campbell, he falls off the board. And then Roddy White, he's number 28 overall to the Falcons. He goes off the board. So now I always had kind of like did have the fantasy or the euphoric wishful thinking of being a first rounder, which I knew was possible, didn't know if it was likely. So all of a sudden, bam, the first round is now passed. Okay, so now I'm getting a little antsy. And the thing is, just like a couple guys that I've coached, I give them advice on how to handle the draft. And I tell them, if you want to have a big party, fine, whatever. But like you want to have people around you that are going to have a calming energy because you're already going to be uptight. So you don't want to have people around you like, hey, man, what's going on? I thought you were the third-ranked DB, and so-and-so's the sixth-ranked DB. He just got drafted ahead of you. Like, what's going on? You don't need anybody that's going to already bring more anxiety to you. You don't need that. You already have enough. So for me, I'm always kind of like a bit of a loner to a certain degree. So whenever I'm dealing with anxiety, I like to be by myself. So I leave the house to go to the mall near downtown. Since it's been closed down and all that, called Highland Mall. I go up in there, give me a slice of pizza, this pizza place that I used to love going to called Cazzoli's Pizza. And I shit you not, all of a sudden I'm in line getting this slice of pizza. That's when my phone is vibrating. And I look down, it's a private number. And so I answer it, and then that's when it was Norv Turner on the other line and Al Davis asking, do you want to be a Raider? And I was like, hell yeah. And there you go.
He said, and I know that conversation had to be interesting because we've had one of your former Raider alum on this show. He was drafted by the Falcons first, Mr. Lincoln Kennedy. Shout out to Mr. Link. And he talked about how Al Davis was trying to poach him when he was playing for the Falcons at the time, just talking to him. You want to be a Raider, huh?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Davis. I'd
Al
like to be a Raider one day. Yeah, you know, we'll see what that is. But I wanted to draft you, but you weren't there. They took you. You know, Al Davis. You know that I've heard stories about Mr. Davis, and I grew up, and he was just pretty much like an iconic figure. But
Godfather.
The
Godfather.
You either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, the Godfather.
No in between. And I got a respect for Mr. Davis because he was one of the first to really start bringing in HBCU players and guys from smaller schools like yourself. And the main thing that his philosophy was speed. That was something he always preached because
no doubt about it.
I don't know if he mentioned it to you. Maybe he did. He said the two teams that influenced him the most growing up, he's a Brooklyn guy, by the way, if y'all don't know, the New York Yankees and the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah.
The Yankees were the power and the intimidation. The Dodgers were the speed. And he said he wanted to make both of those come together to bring that organization that way. So when you look at you, Mr. Routt, Cliff Branch, rest in peace. You look at Darius Haywood-Bay. You look at Michael Haynes, Lester Hayes. All these guys were big and fast. Or if you weren't big, you were fast. He didn't care how you sounded on the mic. He didn't care about anything. He only cared about football. What was it like being around him, and how was it being in that area with him on the practice field, and you could smell him a mile away? Because I hear the stories about the cologne.
Oh, man, Al D, mind as sharp as a tack. Obviously, his body started fading his last couple of years on this planet, but his mind never faded. That was the one thing that I always noticed about him. And I remember, I think it was one time I went up to his office. This is in my later years. And I'm talking about he's over there talking like, yeah, Stanford, remember that time back when you were a junior in high school on that 3rd and 8 against Marble Falls when you made that pass breakup on the slant? And I'm just like, I don't even remember that play. And like he's over here speaking on it like he was literally there watching it in person. And that's something that always kind of stuck out to me. But, you know, like I said, Al lived, he ate, he drank, he slept football. Like the Raiders were his baby. That was what it was all about. Obviously, you know, with him being a former commissioner, being a former head coach, all of that. But yes, you definitely hit it right on the head. He's got that New York type of grit to him. That's the one thing that when I really started to kind of have a conversation with him, that one time, that's what really stuck out. And he oozes in that type of NYC, that type of East Coast type of rough exterior. And I've heard plenty of stories about Mr. Davis. And I tell you one that comes to mind is if you're a Raider, you're always one. Like that's not just a slogan. Like he actually really means that. And I say that to the standpoint of if you're one of Al's guys, you could have a family member that has a rare disease that like only 3 or 4 doctors in the world know how to perform a surgery on. And somehow, some way, one of those doctors will just wind up knocking on your relatives, your loved one's door, basically saying, hey, I'm here to go ahead and perform the surgery free of charge. And like just like that, you didn't ask for it. You didn't even hint at it. He just did it out of the kindness of his heart. So that was something that was very touching. Now, at the end of the day, you loved Al's fire. Like you love that. So I'll give you a quick story. And this was told to me by one of the players who was on the Raiders. I played with him, but this story he told me happened before I got there. So he tells me Al would always come down on Thursdays, third down day. That's the day he would come down on the field, watch practice. And we had a guy on the team, big name guy. Trust me, you've heard of him. He's a stud. And it was during special teams. He's sitting down on the Gatorade cooler, just drinking the Gatorade or whatever. Al walks up to him. He said, "Hey, blank, blank. How's it going?" He said, "Mr. Davis, I'm a gangster. I'm here to take all your money." Al, he politely laughed. That's a good one. And then this is what I was told. Al leaned in and he said, "But I'm the real gangster." And I was like, "Oh, note to self." Note to self.
Howie Long told the story. He walked up to him and said, "I took your lunch money." And,
Yeah.
And Howie says, "Whose ass have you kicked?"
So yeah, Al was one of those guys that great person. One of the best owners in all of sports history. I don't give a damn what you say or what anybody thinks. One of the best owners. And now the thing is, like I said, old school New York, old school Italian. And I say all that, and I'm saying this in jest, obviously, but like Al had the type of aura that, like, if he wanted you erased off of this planet, or if he wanted somebody to just disappear, it seemed like it was well within his realm of reach. So that was also something that I noticed about him, as far as the aura, as far as the way he carried himself, that, yeah, like if he wants you to disappear, it's well within his reach.
So,
but
K-Dub, I'm gonna let you get this next question, but before we get it, I got one more question about Mr. Davis. I'm gonna let K-Dub get this one.
But
What
nonetheless, love that man. Still remember the morning he passed. We had just got to Houston the night before on a Friday night, about to play the Houston Texans. And yes, that was definitely a very somber morning. It's a somber weekend. And to be honest with you, that whole season, I feel like I feel like his death really played a big part in a lot of our downward turn that season, because we came out the gate 7-4 to start off the year, and then we wound up going 0-5 in the month of December, wound up losing the division to Tim Tebow, and wound up finishing 8-8. But anyways, like I said, just thinking about that brings back those memories. Al D, he is definitely sorely missed.
Last question about Mr. Davis I got, and I'm gonna let K-Dub get this one. When you talk about him and you say Raider for life, and if you're there with him, you're his guy, even if he trades you away and you get brought back, what was a solid, specific piece of advice that he gave you that you could take for the rest of your life that helps you day by day and you apply it?
Piece of advice he gave me: family. I probably would say that. That type of family type of atmosphere, treating the people that you work with like family, people that are in your inner circle, people that are close to you, like, wrap your arms around them. I'd probably say that's probably the biggest one. Indirectly, something I probably learned is that he told me about growing up. I think he grew up in Syracuse. And I think it was humble beginnings. I'm not sure, but I think it was humble beginnings. But just simply watching from afar his trajectory. Man was at one point in time the commissioner of the NFL, also a head coach of the Raiders, things like that. But also this right here. And I'd probably say this part is probably what to me is probably more telling and more powerful than what he told me directly, is having that type of energy, having that type of aura. And follow me what I'm telling you. So I remember this is when you had the Raiders in LA, they leave to go to Oakland, and Yeah, they hadn't gone back to LA yet. So there was no team in LA. And the NFL was thinking about moving the Rams, I think, to LA. This is late 90s, I believe. And I remember he sued the league because he claimed he owned the LA market.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, listen, you can't own a market. Like, it's like saying you own the air down there, which, if you think about it from a logical perspective, that's like bonkers to hear. But simply having the balls, simply having the moxie to sit up there and file that lawsuit and with a straight face say that, no, I still own that market. So like y'all gotta get my approval to do it. And simple other things, firing coaches for cause, not paying them. Coaches who still to this day are trying to get their money from him. And Mr. Davis has been gone for 15 years. Just that type of way of carrying himself, that type of aura, that type of I'm the BDE in the room. You're gonna curve to my demands. I run this, you don't. That's something that I've always been enamored with, because like I said, that's a lot of that brash Deion Sanders, this is my house type of mindset. So I'm always going to be attracted to fiery type of energy and fiery type of demeanors.
Okay. K-Dub. Your sound's out again. It's all good. But no, like, I mean, and you're absolutely right about that when you talk about that fiery demeanor and you look at that. I think that's missing in a lot of the NFL today. And I think when Al Davis, like you said, moved on, a lot of that just kind of softened because he ruffled a lot of feathers, which I love.
Oh, no doubt about it. Like, I can tell you there's times we're playing against certain teams and they're trying to run the score up on us just because they don't like Al. There's referees that we felt called penalties on us just because they didn't like Al. So, you know, I mean, like I said, it's all good. I think that no matter what, Al Davis, his legacy, his name will always be remembered. No, I don't care who it is. I don't care what they try. I just think that his legacy will always live on. And one thing that I can tell you with Mark Davis, what he's doing out there in Las Vegas, and the simple way that they have the stadium set up with that fire burning deep off in that corner at Allegiant Stadium, his legacy will always live on.
What? Let me get into 2007 when you coming back off of the injury and getting a chance to finally start opposite Nnamdi. How was that experience? And talk to the listeners and subscribers out there about you talked about the toughest cover you had in college, but who's the toughest quarterback you had to go against in your time in the league? The toughest quarterback you think to go get a pick off of, to get anything off of. Just expound upon that for me, for our listeners.
Let me see. 2007, playing alongside Nnamdi. Obviously, I mean, our lockers are right beside each other, so I was always soaking up his knowledge. Attention to detail, approach to the game. That's what I learned, and I say that because I had never known how to study film. I had never known how to prepare for an opponent. So I think my first game starting that year was against Cleveland. Studied my ass off and played pretty well in that game. And I say that because oftentimes in high school or college, you're just going out there playing off athleticism. Well, they say in the NFL, once you start knowing the game, once you start studying the game, it slows down. Because when you first get in there, it's like bullets flying. Everything's moving 1,000 miles an hour. But when you actually go study, that's when things start to slow down. And I remember that game slowed down for me. Not all the way, but a little bit, to where I now know what to expect. I may not know what my receiver's going to do, but I know what he's not going to do based on the formation, the backfield set, any sort of motion, his split, down in distance, where we are on the field. There's always some situation that you can use to give you the tools and the tips as to what you think you may be getting out of your receiver. That's something I definitely learned from Nnamdi. Also learned it from Charles Woodson as well. To your last question about the toughest quarterback to not get an interception off of, or that I didn't, them Chargers, they were always tough. Phillip Rivers, one of the best ever. No doubt about that. I always struggled with understanding and just simply getting any type of anticipation, any type of blueprint on the Chargers offense. I always struggled against them just because I had to literally play off athleticism because the film study, all of that, I just never really was able to go ahead and kind of grasp their offensive game plan. Toughest quarterback, just in general, I wound up getting a pick off him in the preseason, even though it doesn't count.
We'll take it.
Toughest quarterback, Aaron Rodgers.
A-Rod.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers.
Definitely Hall of Famer. So, I mean, that's tough. That's
not only Hall of Famer, like you will be hard pressed to name more than 2 people in the history of this league with better arm talent than him. You'll be hard pressed to name more than 2. I promise you on that.
Are you talking about current? Are you talking about?
I'm saying in the history of this league, you will struggle to name 2 people with better arm talent than him. You will struggle. I promise you.
Can we throw Dan Marino in that category? Because Dan was doing stuff. Dan was doing stuff in the league where guys were getting touched, and it was a lot harder to do. And I got another quarterback for you when you talk about it. When you talk about arm talent, and he beat us for a Super Bowl, and a lot of people give him credit, but a lot of folks don't really realize what he was like. John Elway in his prime had that same type of arm talent that A-Rod had. And I got to throw my HBCU quarterbacks up in there. I'll put him up against, and unfortunately racism played a part, and unfortunately Al Davis kind of played a part in ending his career. Jefferson Street, Joe Gilliam, rest in peace. That man there could literally do the same things A-Rod was doing because all the legendary Steelers and the receivers talked about it. They just said at the time they just weren't ready for a guy like that. And then I got to say Doug Williams in his prime. Not Washington Doug Williams, Tampa Bay Doug Williams.
I know what you're saying.
When you talk about arm talent. But A-Rod is a different animal, though. I give you that. But arm talent, those are the only 4 guys I would say that I could match up with him from old school. New school, nobody. Except maybe Mahomes.
Yes. And now, and what I'll say about all that is, as far as Gilliam, Doug Williams, obviously, my dad used to watch him a lot. My dad has told me plenty about him. I've actually had the pleasure of meeting Doug Williams a couple years ago. So I didn't really watch them that much. So I first got to give that disclaimer. I didn't. I watched John Elway. I watched Dan Marino. Obviously, Dan Marino, very, very quick release, no doubt about it. John Elway, one of the top NFL draft pick, or should I say, one of the top player evaluations as far as like what grade he had going into the draft that's like ever in history. Now, as far as A-Rod goes, the reason why I say that is as many off-balance throws that he can make. He is somebody that, believe it or not, our game plan going against the Packers was we want to keep him in the pocket. We don't even want to flush him out of the pocket because when he's in the pocket, he's great. When he's in the pocket, he's great. When he's outside the pocket scrambling, he's deadly. Yes. And so you think about the arm talent, you think about his ability to be able to scramble. Obviously, he's no Lamar Jackson, but he's mobile enough to move around, to evade the pass rush, go ahead, create more time for his receivers. And he had a lot of them, especially in that 2010, 2011 era. He had a lot of great ones. Now, and this is why I say this. Arm talent, at least I don't think there's any more than maybe 2 you can name in history. This part right here. How many gunslingers also throw the amount of interceptions he throws? Or should I say the lower amount of interceptions he throws? That to me is what separates him. Gunslinger who also doesn't throw interceptions. You think of gunslinger, Brett Favre. At one point in time, had the most touchdown passes in NFL history. Also, most interceptions in NFL history. So, true gunslinger. It's like being a gambler at the casino. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. With A-Rod and along with Tom Brady, they were gunslingers that also didn't throw interceptions. That's what always stuck out in my mind about A-Rod.
And And when you talk about gunslinger, it's not just the arm talent, it's also the mindset
Yes.
of being able to do that.
Yes.
And it's only a few that had that have that mindset and had that type of moxie like that to be a gunslinger. So I get what you're saying when you say those two in that sense. But when you say, like you said, the arm talent side, yeah, it's a few, but not many can't make a lot of mistakes either. In that sense.
And the thing is, even when you mention Gilliam, you mentioned Doug Williams, John Elway, Dan Marino. Even when you mention even a Pat Mahomes, obviously Pat Mahomes, 3 Super Bowls. I think he just turned 30 or is turning 30 this year or something like that. So obviously people are going to put him ahead of Aaron Rodgers just off of the winning, clearly. And obviously right now, Chiefs. Okay, they didn't win this past season. They didn't even go to playoffs. The year before, they got blasted by the Eagles. But the Chiefs are still kind of like a little bit of the most Beatles or U2 type of team, or should I say fame, in the NFL. So they're still going to always have that notoriety. When I think of an Aaron Rodgers, even when you name those people, it's still an argument or discussion to be had about who's better. It's not definitive, where it's clearly, head and shoulders, even a blind man can see it, that they have better arm talent. So that's why, for me, that's why I always say, like, you'll struggle to name 2, and I'll just go ahead and put a modification to that. You'll struggle to name 2 definitively that have better arm talent than him. Everybody else will be arguable, arbitrary, debatable, what have you. But yes, playing with that guy, or should I say playing against that guy, his ball placement at the time was very, very, very spot on. His velocity was crazy. And I think a lot of it all goes back to draft day, if you want my personal opinion.
You see how you had to change that word up. I was listening like a hawk. Really, when you said that, when you were saying debatable, but when you put that twist on it, I said, okay. Now, if you'd have said that off the bat, I'd have had no argument with that one. But also looking at it like this, we love the debates in here.
Hey, so do I. It's all good.
So when you ended up getting, after your season went, after the 2007 season, you had 2010 season, but you also had D'Angelo Hall come over as well. Yep. And when you look at what happened, former Falcon, former first round pick for us, you had one of the best seasons a Raider cornerback can have. And I can say this here, you look at all the great corners that they've had to come through, from your Willie Browns, your Nehemiah Wilsons, your Lester Hayes, who should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way, Mike Haynes, Van McElroy. You talk about all these guys that have come through this organization, and you look at what you did within 15 games. First time really getting to that point, 15 out of 16 games that year. You had 55 tackles, 13 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, and 1 was for a pick 6. And then you also had a forced fumble. You had the second lowest burn rate. For those that don't understand, for those who don't understand what that is, us corners, we know that. Pretty much means he did not get beat deep at all that year. He only had, I think it was 39% burn rate. And the other 61%, he was a lockdown corner. What that means is nobody was averaging over 25 yards a game on this dude. So when you sit back and you look at what he was bringing to the table that season, that was one of the best seasons, arguably, for a cornerback. And it's only one corner that had better numbers than him that year. Man by the name of Darrell Revis that played for the Jets. Yeah. So when you have your name in that company, I did my homework. I told you I study, and I love studying film. I love studying and breaking things down.
I respect it.
And when you look at what you put into the game, as in studying, you had Mr. Woodson teaching you, one of the greatest corners of all time that he gets credit, but he should be up there with Deion because he was a multi-sport athlete. Most people don't know that either.
He was a hurdler. He was a hurdler.
And so another track guy. And you also had Nnamdi to teach you, and I know D'Angelo probably rubbed off on you a little bit too.
Yeah.
When you talk about that season, what did it feel like to be compared to Revis, and then to be compared to some of the greatest Raider corners of all time?
Well, for
What
one,
did
I
it
can
feel
tell you,
like to you?
for one, I can tell you like this. Obviously, that was the plan, or should I say, that was the objective all along. Because let me tell you something, guys, and I still remember that season like it was yesterday. I believe it was. I mean, you actually may have the numbers better than I do, Ryan. So that year, I think I was thrown at 99 times. Namdi was thrown at like 19 times. So when you're playing alongside another stud corner who I know everybody gonna fight me on this. I know people will. I had never seen a corner in my life with my own two eyes that lined up with Andre Johnson, lined up against Larry Fitzgerald, and the quarterback simply just didn't throw to. So for me, Namdi was the best corner in the league back then at that time. I know people going to fight me on it. I don't care. I know they are. Now, he obviously didn't do it for a lengthy period of time like Revis. That's why Revis in the Hall, much respect. He deserves all of that. So, like, no shade at him whatsoever. But anyways, and the only reason why I say that is because Revis, as great as he was, Revis still got thrown at. There are times Namdi simply didn't get thrown at. So that's why I would have given Namdi the slight edge. But once again, that's my opinion. Anybody else? Whatever. So I say all that to say this. So if they're not throwing over there, where the hell you think the ball's going to go at? So I already knew coming into that season exactly what I was up against. I knew exactly what was going to be happening. So yeah, I poured everything into my craft. I poured all the way into the studying. I poured into having myself healthy. And the craziest part about it is what the season you're referring to. That season, I actually entered in a training camp with a strained hamstring. And I had a strained hamstring the entire season. So obviously, it wasn't something that was reported. It was something that I managed. So every day, I'm putting the Tiger Balm on my hamstrings. I'm getting loosened up. I'm getting the massages. I'm getting in the cold tub. I'm getting in the hot tub. I'm doing everything because I know, hey, for one, this is a contract year. Number two, I'm playing alongside the best corner in the league. You know they throwing at me. So in Raider Nation, they're very unforgiving. Like, they're not about to sit over there and give you a pass. So I already knew that I had a massive deck stacked against me. But yes, seeing Revis, seeing Namdi, seeing a Champ Bailey who was also in our division, absolutely. I knew that I wanted to at least be in the same realm. I wasn't going to overtake them because they're fantastic, great Hall of Fame level corners. I just wanted to be able to at least be in the same gym as them. Not going to be in the same room. They over there in the corner by themselves. I just want to be able to be like, hey man, like, you know, I'm in the room. I'm just not over there on y'all's table. But like, I'm still over here kind of like in a little general admission area while they're in the VIP part of the club.
Man. And looking at it from that standpoint, most people don't understand. Like I said, you pretty much had a consistent career with the Raiders.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and this is a part that I got to kind of chuckle about, you know, you're the second Raider that I know that goes to the rival of the Kansas City Chiefs. Marcus Allen. Now, we all know why Marcus Allen went there. We're not going to revisit that because we already know the history. I've heard stories off the record. I'm not going to put that out here, ladies and gentlemen.
So have I.
Yeah, well, of course, you was in the building with Al, so you know.
Yeah.
But you go to Kansas City, who also has another history of great corners. Most people don't know Emmett Thomas. And then I got to throw out here, I compared Jared Washington to this guy, Mr. Albert Lewis, one of the best corners that was so underrated in the league.
And a guy that coached me in Oakland, guy who I'm still friends with to this day. Another guy went to multiple Pro Bowls. He's actually in the Chiefs Ring of Honor or Hall of Fame, whatever they call it. We called him Rock, Kevin Ross.
Yep. And that was Kevin Ross and Albert Lewis. That was a hell of a tandem back then. One of our Birdcage alum. Shout out to my uncle Nazarella Worthy, who played wide receiver on that team and was a special teams ace. He was one of our first football players we interviewed. And he talked about what Albert Lewis was like and Kevin Ross was like going against them every day. And most people don't understand is Albert Lewis came from the Eddie Robinson tree. To hell with Grambling, by the way. Go SU, go Jags. but respect to Eddie Robinson because he put out so many great players, and you learned from the great Willie Brown at one point while he was still alive.
Absolutely.
And you had a little bit of Eddie Robinson rub off on you. When you were in Kansas City, did you ever get a chance to meet Albert Lewis, and what did he tell you when you got there, and how did he help you out if you were able to meet him? And I know you just spoke on your mentor, Kevin Ross.
Yeah, never got a chance to meet Albert Lewis. Emmett Thomas, he was our head DB coach. Otis Smith was one of the assistant DB coaches. He won a couple Super Bowls with the Patriots back in the 90s. Also played for the Jets as well. And E.T. Emmett Thomas, I learned a lot from him because he's from Texas, from right outside of Houston, small town called Angleton. Great guy, but no, never got a chance to meet Albert Lewis. And yeah, it's the craziest thing, my man, is when you're playing. Obviously, GMs, director of player personnel, those guys are always scouting talent. They're always looking at other players. And if you think about it, when I say this, it's going to make sense to y'all. Think about, obviously, the team you're playing for has their biggest affinity for you, appreciation for your skill set. Well, who would have the second highest appreciation or affinity for your skill set? Somebody that sees you twice a year. So that's why you oftentimes will see guys leave one team and then go to another team in the division, because those teams understand exactly what you bring to the table, your skill set, what you're all about. So they have a familiarity with you. Yes, I get it. Yes, huge rivalry, hated rivalry, a lot of the tumultuous turmoil, all of that throughout the fans. But that's how a lot of that works, because they have a high level of understanding of exactly what your skill set is, because they see you twice a year.
Hey, you spoke on Emmett Thomas. K-Dub, we can't hear you. You got to pop out and pop back in. Try it again while we're waiting on him to pop out. And for those who don't know, Emmett Thomas went to Bishop. He went to Bishop College, which is a HBCU that is no longer around. It's defunct now. Ended in 1988. But definitely a hell of a player. K-Dub, go ahead, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just gonna comment on what you guys were talking about Emmett, about the coaching that he had. Man, he had some great coaching to help him to perfect his craft, man, in the NFL and his time with the Chiefs. And he was saying that multiple teams get to see you twice a year that's in your division. So it kind of opened up some of our listeners and subscribers' eyes to why a lot of guys, when they switch teams, they may go to a rival, a bitter rival, or hated rival. So that kind of opened my eyes up to it, not just in his sense, but when other players may go to a team that's in their division. That's all I'll
yeah.
And most folks don't know this about Emmett Thomas, and I know he got talked about it because Falcons, Emmett Thomas coached in our secondary at one point for the Falcons back in the day.
Yeah.
And from 2002 to 2009, and then he was interim head coach.
Interim head coach.
Yeah. That's why he's very familiar.
And his thing, he's got one ring as a player, but he also has one ring as an assistant coach, because he actually was coaching with Richie Pettibone and the Washington Redskins at the time, with Darryl Green and that great secondary that they had, Mike Wilbur and those guys that were back there. So when you look at it, you've been around some of the greatest minds.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
What did you take from the opportunity of being able to learn from some of the greatest minds of the NFL?
Technique. That's what's always going to see you through. Technique, attention to detail, studying film, being able to put yourself in the mindset of that offensive coordinator. You got to get to your technique quicker than the opponent. I remember this is early on in my career. And one thing that I love to do is I love to always have communication. That's one thing. So I remember it would be first, second series of the game. Boom, we just got off the field, 3 and out. Maybe we just had the second series, and it was maybe 6 plays during that whole second series. And now I go up to Nnamdi, hey, what are you seeing over there? Like, what are they giving you? Because maybe they're going to go ahead and flip the formation, give me the same thing. And I'm walking up to him, and he's walking clean by me, just completely ignores me. But he's like saying stuff under his breath. He's like, okay. He's like dragging his double slants, dragging his double slants, dragging his double slant. So he's going back to the bench because he's going to go write that down in his notes. So if he hears the quarterback calling audible, say dragging, and then all of a sudden, boom, he gets double slants to his side, he writes that down on his notepad. So now fourth quarter comes, I hear that quarterback say dragging again, I'm going to go get it. And little things like that of just simply understanding football, tendencies, knowing the audibles, attention to detail, the small things, the stuff that it don't even matter how fast you are, don't matter how high you can jump. If you just simply know what play is coming, you can go get it, intercept it, take the ball back for a touchdown. And just little things like that of how to be a pro. So I've definitely learned from a lot of the greats, some of the greats some of the greatest. But yeah, that definitely brings back a lot of memories and attention to detail, technique, confidence, receiver splits, backfield set, motions. That is something that I definitely took something from pretty much everybody that I've been around.
So when you got to Kansas City, you split time between there, and then you ended up going back to Texas and Houston and becoming a practice squad player. When did you know your days as a professional athlete had ended, and how did you adjust to life after the game, and how have you been thriving so far?
Oh shit. That's a 50-layer question. I'd probably say once we got towards the end of that season, that's when I noticed my desire wasn't as high as it once was. And then that's when I started feeling like, man, maybe it might be time for me to go ahead and move on, just because I'm thinking that it's time for a change. Now, something that I didn't realize, it took me probably a couple years to go ahead and get some clarity once I kind of moved away. But when I left Oakland, I didn't realize this at the time, but when I left Oakland, much of my heart was still in Oakland, because when I got to Kansas City, it just never felt right. It didn't. It always just felt different, felt a little weird. And I wasn't able to articulate that or make sense of it till after I stopped playing. So I think that my love for the game wasn't as invigorated as it once was. So that was pretty much kind of like my sign, you know what, maybe it might be time to go ahead and move on. Yeah. And then also at the same time, the NFL was kind of entering a different wave where it was also starting to get younger, where you're having more guys that are undrafted, that are on the actual roster, where you now have, I think there was a certain floor, because you obviously have the salary cap, but you then also had a salary floor where you must reach that floor and things like that. So teams were going younger. And also at the same time, you factor in that with also me and my mind, I'm starting to kind of feel different things. And deep down, my heart is really still in Oakland, but I know that door is closed. So you just kind of get to a point where, as a man, you got to know when it's time to move on. And that was the time. And when you asked the question about the transition afterwards, it was difficult. I'm not even going to sit up here and sugarcoat it. It was difficult because so many players know this. You go from being Superman to Clark Kent. And a lot of people deal with the psychological of that, even the literal, because you no longer can say, hi, I'm Stanford. I play for so-and-so. Now it's, I used to play for so-and-so, which doesn't roll off the tongue as smooth. And you as a man, you have to be okay with that. But what it forces you to do, you have to reinvent yourself. So I went through my own depression of so to speak, because everybody's going to go through it. I don't care who you are. And it took me about 2 years maybe to go ahead and kind of come up out from that. Now, luckily, throughout my years, I made good money, so I didn't have to necessarily hop into another job right away. Give me time to go ahead and think about what it is I wanted to do next. And that's when all of a sudden I started thinking, I kind of started getting in a little bit of radio, a little bit of broadcasting. And then at the same time, I was also coaching high school ball. So that was what started my trajectory back up, where I started feeling like myself again, because now I'm actually going and I'm getting those competitive juices flowing again, rather than just sitting at home watching the world go by, and then just kind of basically licking your wounds. So as a man, you're going to go through your own version of depression, or what I like to call metamorphosis. You're going to go through your own version of it. Some will be more severe than others. Some will be less severe than others. But you are going to go through it because you've been doing something your whole life. And then now all of a sudden, you don't got to go to work tomorrow. And it's going to have some sort of an impact on you. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care who it is. It is going to have some sort of an impact on you. Now, today's generation of player, because you're seeing more guys that are getting into the podcast or Twitch or social media stream while they're playing, they're setting that up for after they're done. So it's a much smoother transition. So kudos to them. But to your question, Ryan, it had its difficulties, no doubt about it. But once you come up out from under that, it makes you a better man, because for one, it's going to give you more clarity. You're going to have more of a bird's eye view of everything. You start to understand yourself better. And I think ultimately, and I love this because a lot of the guys did that for me as coaches, that gives me the wisdom to where now I can be like Unc or Big Bro or like a mentor to a lot of these younger guys, just because at the end of the day, I remember Otis Smith told me back when I was with the Chiefs, he said, Routt, you want to leave this game better than you found it. So that's something that I take that very serious. I take a lot of pride in that. So anytime, one of my former guys, they call me, matter of fact, one of them just texted me the other day asking me about some advice that he wants me to give him going forward this summer. And that's something I take great pride in, just because I know how I felt way back then as a high schooler, college, whatever. I would have loved to have had like a former player that I could like reach out to, call, text, lean on. I would have loved that. So because I didn't get that, I take great pride in doing that for them.
And we definitely understand that part when you talk about a metamorphosis, because, we didn't get to the level you did as a football player, but we actually did it in the military. And we tell people all the time, man, when you get into that life and you're living with people, you're doing a certain job, you live a certain lifestyle, and it all of a sudden is just, it ends.
Yeah.
It is, and I tell people all the time, this is why a lot of vets is crazy, because we have assistants at the veterans hospital, the VA. Might not be the greatest sometimes, but it's decent in some aspects. Some VAs are better than others, but you have a lot of guys that struggle with drug addiction, alcohol abuse. You have guys that commit suicide because they can't understand, like, how am I supposed to live now? I don't have a structure anymore. I don't have a schedule. And it's and I tell people all the time, it's different because they play football. It's a totally different life. But when you talk about the path of everything ending, some people set themselves up, some people don't. But the results that you see for people going down Skid Row to suicide and mental health and different things of that sort, it's exactly the same.
No doubt about it.
And lastly, you talked about coaching. You coached college ball for a little bit, and you coached high school. What really, for you being a player and understanding what needs to be done from the off season to the business side of things, to really teaching guys that really are still learning their ways around the game and also learning the politics of the game, how did you help all these young men that have crossed your path? And what is it that you take pride in by still being able to be a mentor to them consistently, as you just spoke about? What does that do for you? And do you still look forward to having more coaching opportunities one day?
Well, for one, definitely look forward to having more coaching opportunities. That's number one. Number two, as far as what you were saying originally, I think that in many ways, I think that life is kind of like what I used to run track, so I'm proud to go ahead and allude to it right now. And you guys obviously know that, but in many ways, life is almost kind of like a relay. It's almost kind of like a track meet. And I say that because I've already ran the first part of my race, went high school, college, pro, played this, that, and the other. Okay, my time is now done. Well, now it's time for me to hand this baton to you. And that way you can go ahead and have your time. as a player, college, pro, whatever, make a lot of money, be famous, whatever you want to call it. And that's how we're going to get this stick all the way around this track. That's how we're going to go ahead and now try to create generational wealth. That's how we're going to go and try to get our loved ones out of certain situations that we may not want them to be in anymore. That's how we can go ahead and elevate those loved ones and those family members that are around us that we simply want to try to uplift them in any way that we can. But there's a point where you also have to learn how you got to kill self. You got to assassinate self. And the first thing that I learned when I started coaching high school ball in 2017, it's no longer about you. It's about them. And so you have to be willing to take that back seat because, yeah, you're the coach, but they're the ones who are going to get the notoriety. They're the ones who are going to get all the pub, whatever, because they're the player, just like it was back when I was a player. You got to be okay with that. You can't start to feel singled out. You can't start to feel like you are now oblivious, or should I say anonymous, or even just like you just disappeared, or like you, or something like that, because it's not about you anymore. You got to be okay with that. You have to be able now to internally digest a certain type of internal satisfaction that you get from seeing them succeed. And that's what I get now from watching guys, because I've had people do that for me. So it's no longer about me. There's a certain level of satisfaction I get internally that now whenever they succeed, I've succeeded. But it means so much to see them go and now chase their dreams. And to end it off on this, obviously I started getting into broadcasting, doing stuff on the radio for ESPN, things like that, which in many ways, if I'm being honest, it fed my ego, no doubt about it. People asking me my thoughts, me giving my takes, things like that, which is cool because, I mean, we all have it to a certain degree. But me coaching, that started to feed my soul. And that was the difference of how I was able to think, okay, you know, well, which one do I really want to take more serious and really try to go the distance in, was that. Because anytime I have some of my former guys, hey, coach, man, what's going on? I got a problem. Can you help me out with this? Or, hey, coach, I'm at this new school now, and this is the technique that we're playing. And, coach, what do you think about this? Like, I love that. Like, I just that tickles me in ways that they probably will never even understand. Maybe one day when they start coaching, who knows? But that's just the best. I mean, I can't think of anything better.
Well, we definitely appreciate you stopping through. We're going to stop it on that dime right there because, again, it's all about the community, and you definitely are playing a part still, even though you're not coaching them on the field per se anymore. You're still coaching them in life because I definitely understand it, because my coach, who I play semi-pro for, I'm still tight with him to this day. Mm-hmm. And even though I went to the military, he's a vet too, but he's still coaching me in life. Shout out to Coach McGriff. You know, he still is like a father figure to me and still gives me advice on things. And, you know, and what's funny is I still bump heads with him like I did when I played for him, but it's I'm a little hard-headed, but, you know, I'll say this. You are still very much appreciated, not just in the football world, but also in the community of helping raise young men. Because right now we're seeing a lot of young men fall by the wayside, and with the values that you've had poured into you from Mr. Davis, from Emmett Thomas, Willie Brown, all these guys not just teaching you football, but also teaching you life, you got to still continue to pour this type of knowledge into these guys, because we need more stand-up gentlemen like you're raising right now, and we got to keep that going because it's too many folks falling by the wayside, and we have a society that's falling apart. So
absolutely,
for people like you to continue to do that, we appreciate you for coming through, giving us a time tonight out of your busy schedule, because again, we definitely love talking football, but we love talking a little bit of life to go along with that. So
absolutely,
let the folks know,
man. I appreciate it. Say that again.
Let the folks know where they can find you at, because you got a show as well.
I don't really do it too much anymore, but I don't want to I don't want to be smirch, or I don't want to rip the words from one of the greatest people that I've ever actually met, but also admire. I'm not hard to find. I don't want to rip it off Deion Sanders too much. S Routt, that's 2 T's 26. That's my Instagram. Same as it's now called X, but showing my age, I'm used to calling it Twitter. And then the show that Ryan's referring to is All Facts No Cap. So it's not hard to find. You can go ahead and Google it. It's pretty much anywhere where you can find where you receive any of your podcast episodes. You can find it on Apple. You can find it on YouTube. You find it on everything else where you could get your podcast. But yeah, S Routt, that's 2 T's 26. That's for Instagram and for Twitter or X.
Look, don't worry about it. You can say it. Deion not watching us. We still trying to get everything together. And see, hold up. And
I might be watching this in a couple seasons.
In a couple seasons, yeah. But look, if he ever run across this episode, I got words for him because he did coach at Jackson State, which I respect because my idol, Walter Payton, that's the reason I played. But, that's about the only thing I loved out of Jackson State was Walter Payton. But you coached at Jackson State, so I got words for you, sir. But again, you can go ahead and rip him off. Look, he from down there in Fort Myers, man, as they like to say, Fort Myers. He country. I'm at the top. I'm over there. Look, Atlanta, Georgia, raised around Jacksonville, Florida. So, it's a little bit of a rivalry when we talk about them boys from down there in South Florida.
I know.
No love lost.
Yeah, I know, man. I know. I get it.
But thank you for coming through.
Thank you guys.
Hopefully we can get you back. Maybe sometime this season, talk a little bit more football.
Good. All
yes,
good.
Sir.
Hey, sure, Ryan. Hey, you know how to contact me.
Hold on.
It's all good.
You're not hard to find.
Hard to find, baby.
Hey, man. Thank you for coming through, Stan.
All
and
good.
Shout out to Miss Ann for setting this up. Definitely appreciate you.
And Friedman.
Miss Freeman. We're not going to leave you out because you're the reason why this happened. So shout out to Miss Ann Freeman. Now, look, that's about the only nice thing I'm going to say about you because you are a New Orleans Saints fan. And I told you, I have no problem with hanging you out to dry because you come in here talking trash to us all the time. So a little love for Miss Ann. Thank you. Matter of fact, she's in the chat. Shout out to Miss Ann, man.
Yeah, she is.
But thank you, Stan, again. We'll definitely catch you later on this season.
My man, y'all be good. Appreciate y'all for having me on. Everybody listening, man, much love. Definitely much love going forward. Anything you need, hey, Ryan, you go ahead and get at me. K-Dub, nice meeting you. And appreciate you linking me up with Ryan.
Yes, sir. Let's go ahead and end him on this here like we brought him in.
Make a clap to this.
Appreciate you coming through, Mr. Routt. So, ladies and gentlemen, more life, more blessings to you guys. We definitely appreciate you guys for coming in here, checking into the Birdcage on the Perch interview edition. We're going to have our HBCU special Sunday because the draft is next week. We definitely kind of overstepped that one, but it's okay. We're going to show love to our guys that we're actually spotlighting because we talk about the regular schools all the time. So the HBCUs will have a shine on Sunday in between 6 p.m. on Sunday. You know how we do it. K-Dub, appreciate you, my brother, as always.
Yo.
Yes, sir, man. We'll catch you next time. And for those that are in here, man, you know how we get down. You either get right or you get left. Go ahead and get right. As you see, StreamYard is telling me, get your ass off this computer, which I'm getting ready to do right now. So y'all be blessed. We'll catch you next time. Dose.